I have a question for you. All right. I have an Apple Watch. I have an Apple phone, iPhone, and I have a pacemaker defibrillator in my chest. The iPhone can last probably the whole day. If I keep it slightly dimmed, I don't have it on the brightest setting. The Apple Watch, it's 2:00 in the afternoon. It's already got 3% left. Why this watch can't make it the whole day, I don't know. My pacemaker defibrillator can make it 10 years and sometimes 15 years without a battery change. And this thing is running all the time. Explain that to me. I created Species Nutrition with one mission in mind: to provide bodybuilders and serious athletes with no-nonsense supplements that work. I put my name and reputation on every bottle of Species Nutrition products. If you want to be your absolute best, join the evolution. I hit record. We're recording already. All right.
No. Everybody's got to understand this. It's like, and I figured it out during the Jimmy the Bull commercial. This is the way we're going to do it. When you send me the text to say that you sent the link, I'm going to boycott pressing the button until you guarantee me that the record button has been pressed.
So I should start recording before I send you the link.
Me getting on is how you send the link, start recording, and then I show up and guys, the reason we're doing this is this is what 15, 16 years we're doing this now. We have gone forever. The most amazing content, you guys. We would be bigger than Joe Rogan now if that content never fell through our fingertips. So,
I think that this is a good way for this show. I think we shouldn't really start with a formal opening. We should just start with you and I arguing, or at least discussing, as we always do. Well, so what were we discussing that you were yelling at me that I didn't record? So. I forgot. It was about Jimmy the Bull.
The length. Lee and Jimmy the Bull.
Right. Yeah, Lee the Priest and Jimmy, both of those two guys. Whatever show they appear on lately has been getting demonetized. And my theory was, first of all, I thought that Lee was on a list or something like that, because he's always getting put in timeout.
You guarantee you want to hear the C word. Listen to Lee.
So I said maybe it's the fact that you're allowed to curse on YouTube now, but you can't excessively curse. I said I wonder if they're exceeding the curse limit, because there must be some kind of AI that counts up the curses, So I did a show alone with Lee on Thursday, and I don't think maybe he threw one curse, maybe I threw one curse the whole show, and the show was fine. It was monetizable, it was green. And it was the first one that Lee had been on in months no, not months, maybe 2 months, that actually was monetizable. And that's my theory, obviously, is true. There is an AI, artificial intelligence, that's counting curses. I think some of them count more than others, like the C word versus the F word.
Right. Well, I noticed the difference it made in authenticity when Howard Stern left terrestrial radio and went to wherever digital
Sirius
platform he was in. Sirius, right. So when he was then able to say the F word, it sounded totally natural, like more natural than not saying it. You know what I mean? And then and I've noticed that in different capacities, and most recently with Megyn Kelly of all people. She dropped an F-bomb, and I'm like, she just sounded like a totally normal person just then. You know what I mean? So, I mean, you can censor out a great deal of authenticity when you do things like that. But I mean,
I have a question.
They're drawing a line somewhere, apparently.
I have a question for you. All right. I have an Apple Watch. I have an Apple phone, iPhone, and I have a pacemaker defibrillator in my chest. The iPhone can last probably the whole day. if I keep it slightly dimmed, I don't have it on the brightest setting. The Apple Watch, it's 2:00 in the afternoon. It's already got 3% left. Why this watch can't make it the whole day, I don't know. My pacemaker defibrillator can make it 10 years and sometimes 15 years without a battery change. And this thing is running all the time. Explain that to me.
Well, the voltage drain on your pacemaker is almost nothing.
14 years it goes.
Well, I mean, compared to powering a screen like this at full power, or sending. I mean, there's a tremendous difference in the voltage use.
14 years.
I agree. It does sound like
hours.
But they also do periodic. I don't know how a pacemaker works, but some of these alarm type devices only go on for a couple nanoseconds every few seconds, and they go between dead on spots and off spots.
14 years.
It goes to show you how much energy these things take.
No, I think they put a better battery in those because they know you can't take it out and charge it.
Yeah. How much does a pacemaker cost?
Probably, I have supposedly the Mercedes Benz. It's supposed to be
10 grand, probably more.
Right, it's probably $100 grand.
Okay, how much is a phone? $1,000 is the answer to your question.
These phones probably, and someone once told me these phones probably are way more expensive, like to produce, but they make all their money on the plans that you're paying for. So they give you the phone for free on, but even $1,000 is like giving it to you for free.
Well, and they manufacture them in China too, so that's
which is ironic that it's funny. I was listening to that presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy.
I like him.
I like him too. I don't know if I'd want him as president. He seems a little like
too swishy. He should be a vice president. Then he can move up.
Very smart guy though.
Yes.
He was saying, the first thing that he would do as president is, make us self-sufficient so we can make our own microprocessors. I guess everything's made in Taiwan. Did you know that?
I actually own stock in the company. Yes, there's one Taiwanese chip that they make them for everybody.
Everyone.
They only come from one place. Elon is trying to, usurp them by creating his own chips, and he's well on his way to doing that. But for the meantime,
why don't we make them in this country? How come we don't make chips in this country?
We do.
Dumbest people of all time.
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why, because I'm invested in this. There's a company called NVIDIA, which NVIDIA makes the chips and the hardware for AI. Okay. The push right now between the giant companies, Google, Microsoft, eBay, Amazon, these companies are going full bore AI right now, and investing billions and billions of dollars in AI. Those chips are incredibly complicated. They have to be made by a specialty company like NVIDIA, and the focus is there. Whereas these Taiwanese chips is like it's like old technology. It's like it's like a chip in your car. We're going to make a chip in your car for $4, or you're going to make the chip in an AI module that's going to be like $400.
So who's making these AI, the new ones?
The new AI chips?
The ones you're talking about, the complicated ones.
NVIDIA, a company called NVIDIA.
I know NVIDIA, but where are they located?
I think they're here. I think they're an American company. I'm pretty sure they are.
Yeah.
Silicon Valley. Yes, they are. Actually, yes, they are. They're a Silicon Valley company. Yes.
Yeah.
But that's the reason that's happening. But
they're using it as excuses that we don't have the technology. But you know what? What happened when we wanted to make an atomic bomb? Who made the bomb? I haven't seen Oppenheimer, but I know the story.
Right. Well,
we got all the German scientists who defected.
That's how the Saturn rockets got made. Right. It was the German. What was that?
What's his name? Yeah, that guy's name. I can't remember his name.
I know exactly what you mean. But what was the rocket that it had?
Yeah, he made the Saturn rocket. Was it? Yeah, right.
Right. So there you go. But
so why don't we steal some of these Taiwanese? We can kidnap them in the night and give them $1 million each. I mean, they'll come here.
We know how to
make 50 cents an hour over there.
Yeah, but we know how to do it. You just hit the nail on the head. It's the cost of labor and the cost of production. Those chips.
Yeah, but cheap. If we could tell them to go F themselves if we had self-sufficiency. I don't understand why we want to be beholden to other people for stuff that we need.
That's my whole push towards what this government is doing wrong. I mean, if I think if this Ramaswamy guy would hook up with a good, powerful main guy, Trump is just makes, although his business practices are really, really good for the country in terms of inflation, what his attention he pays to the border. I mean, the crime, all of these top ticket issues that are important to Americans were handled quite nicely by Trump's administration.
Yeah.
But he said mean things and sent mean tweets. So we have to have Biden, who comes in and destroys the entire economic structure of the company. And it turns out that he's as big or bigger a crook and criminal and pedophile than anybody else. So, choose your poison. But the thing is, if any of these politicians want to come in and get my attention, I want to see three things. One, pay zero attention to social issues. None. I want none of the government's energy spent on what bathroom the fucking mentally deranged want to use. So no social issues. Two, secure the fucking border. Enough already. That's should be the number one, pivotal issue anybody should be talking about in this economy and in this election cycle is the border. It's absolutely insane the damage it's doing to our country, the danger it's putting us in with not knowing who's getting in this country, and the stress it's putting on the system in general, and the number of people who are going to be fraudulent voters by virtue of all of them. So that's got to be it. And the other issues are tied for third place. The economy, meaning the cost of growth. And see, the way they measure the economy is so unfair. They don't measure the CPI or inflation as a measure of what we're buying, like the consumer price index, and they omit the cost of fuel and the cost of food, the two major number one ticket items on everybody's list right now.
Right.
So if you want to get my attention going into this election cycle, I want to hear you. I want to see that you are not under criminal indictment. You are not under investigation. Your kids aren't under investigation. You have no corruption and you have not been a Washington insider corrupt politician your entire life. You're going to pay attention to the border, to crime, to in the economy, and that's it. Don't pay no attention to social issues.
Well, that's why Ramaswamy said, he goes, they're asking me do I have experience? He goes, I think it's almost better that I don't have experience. He said, because I'm not tainted by the system, which is funny,
If you really look at what was going to get pushed under the rug here with this Hunter Biden thing, that if the whistleblowers hadn't come out in the IRS, they were going to not charge Hunter Biden with anything.
That's crazy.
Nothing. And then that DA that was going to, district attorney that was going to, U.S. attorney that was going to charge him with nothing is the guy they picked to be the special counsel.
Right.
So, right. I mean, they don't even try to hide it now. So that's the degree that this has decayed to the point where blatant corruption is being played out in front of us, right in front of our eyes, with the hubris I've never seen before in my entire life. So we need a different approach to fixing the problems that are actually being felt by us and not the imagined bullshit that's designed to be political.
No, I agree with you. I that's why I love Kennedy. I really do. I love listening to him because he explains on Tucker Carlson. You got to watch Tucker you got to watch him on Twitter because Tucker doesn't have a show. It's always all the shows.
The interview between the two of them, I saw it. You told me.
Yeah, you saw it. Okay.
Yeah.
He explained why we're in the whole Ukraine-Russia mess so well historically, where it came from. But if anyone wants to understand Russia or Ukraine and what's going on there and why it's going on and how to fix it, listen to Kennedy's explanation of it historically. It's I didn't even know half the stuff. I mean, I didn't know that it went back as far as as it did, all the way back to when his uncle was in office,
right?
And they the Russians wanted to put nukes in Cuba, and the reason they wanted to put them in there is because we had nukes in Turkey.
Yep,
and at the last minute, Brezhnev and John F. Kennedy, basically made a secret agreement that if they pulled the nukes out of Cuba, that in 6 months, we would wait 6 months so it didn't look like a cause and effect. We would pull the nukes out of Turkey. And it's the same thing. Russia doesn't, and we promised them that we would never move 1 inch closer to, to putting nukes into their, by their country. And now we have, we want to put nukes right in Ukraine, right on the border there. I mean, so of course the Russians are freaking out. They don't want to. That's why they're annexing all this territory
and inviting all of their neighbors to become members of NATO, which puts the potential for missile silos right across their border. So, they backed Putin into the corner, is what it comes down to.
Of course they did, but Kennedy explains that so well. I mean, so if no one wants nuclear war, there's no
winner.
An idiot,
Right. Well, that was Reagan's whole thing is peace through strength.
Right.
So. There's a lot to be said for that. I think Kennedy and Ramaswamy would be a good ticket.
Yeah, too bad they're on opposing parties, But
you can have. There's been a Republican president, a Democrat vice president before. It's happened.
Ramaswamy is smart. He'd be a great. I think he'd be a better Secretary of State.
Kennedy is smart too.
I'm saying if Kennedy was president, you put Ramaswamy as Secretary of State.
Put him in as vice president.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, the Secretary of State deals with all those affairs. What the thing is, and he said it best, and I'm not saying this to sound racist. Ramaswamy said we need to utilize India more.
Yeah,
for creating, instead of using China for everything we need, India can make the stuff the same prices.
Yes.
And he's like, I'm Indian. He goes, if I can't negotiate something with the Indians, he goes, then I ain't worth my last name. He said.
Right.
Which I thought was great.
The thing that seems to me, and I think where you're going to see this play out, the more AI gets involved in political races, is that we're being led to believe that anybody who shows up with a good idea is shunned. And it's like there's still a good third of the country that thinks Biden is just doing a great job, and so long as you have people that are that in the dark and left that befuddled by the media, where they can stand up and say, God, I was so stressed when Trump was in office. I feel so much better than Biden is in office now. Yeah. And meanwhile, you're paying $2 more for gas than you were paying when Trump was in office. You're paying 25% more in groceries. You're dealing with supply chain problems. You're dealing with infrastructure crumbling. You're dealing with an open border. You're dealing with terrible world policy. You're dealing with everything everything he's touched has turned to shit. So, but you feel less stressed out because it's not Trump in the office. So as long as you have people that think like that, we're not going anywhere. We're not going anywhere except total division. And I see it's like cell mitosis. When the mitochondria, you guys start doing this, it's going to be the right and the left, and we're going to go like this. And we're going to separate, states or sides of the country. I don't know how it's going to work out, but there is no coming back from this. None.
Well, Ramaswamy said it's like we're at the point of like the American Revolution again. It's like we're at the same. He said I would be embarrassed to have like the framers of the Constitution walk down the street and see what's going on. They would be appalled.
And what's interesting is that as all of these hot button political issues percolate and rise to the surface in terms of who's getting impeached, if who's going to get indicted, and how many indictments and where they are and how it falls, and all of this is going on over here. And then you notice there's more as that heats up more and more. You got Biden now with pseudonyms and fake email addresses and shell companies, fake names, fake companies, millions of dollars being funneled back and forth between each other. So what do? They wheel out the UFOs. They wheel out what's hidden on the ice, under the ice in Antarctica. They wheel out the super volcano in Yellowstone is about to erupt, so they had to close the park. All of these sort of ancillary, shiny issues now are being, wheeled out so that we can get distracted from what's being foisted right in front of us.
I want to show you this clip. I thought this was a great clip because I know you and I are pretty much sick of the whole LBGD and all these initials. And so Ramaswamy was at this I don't know, he was at some rally or something like that, and this like 20-something-year-old woman, lesbian, I think she was, or she's non-binary, she asked him this question. I'm going to play it for you because I think it's worth, because his answer is brilliant.
This was the Iowa State Fair, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think I think so. Hold on.
It's where Katie Hobbs asked a reporter from the New York Times to milk the bull.
Really? Yeah. I mean, how could it be? Just mashed together an alphabet soup. Trans is fundamentally in tension with gay, if you ask me. But what's your opinion?
I'm personally pansexual, so I was just wondering what your views on same-sex couples were.
I don't have a negative view of same-sex couples, but I do have a negative view of a tyranny of the minority. So I think that in the name of protecting against the tyranny of the majority, and there are times in this country's history where we have had a tyranny of the majority, we have now, in the name of protecting against tyranny of the majority, created a new tyranny of the minority. And I think that that's wrong. I don't think that somebody who's religious should be forced to officiate a wedding that they disagree with. I don't think somebody who is a woman who's worked really hard for her achievements should be forced to compete against a biological man in a swim competition. I don't think that somebody who's a woman that respects her bodily autonomy and dignity should be forced to change clothes in a locker room with a man. That's not freedom, that's oppression. And so I believe that we live in a country where free adults should be free to dress how they want, behave how they want, and that's fine. But you don't become oppressive by foisting that on others. And that especially includes kids, because kids aren't the same as adults.
It's just great, right?
Who with an IQ over 7 could argue with that, right?
But he made her, she couldn't even speak after that, because he's like, what you guys, first of all, and what he does go on to explain to Tucker is that he's like, as far as I know, lesbian women don't really like gay men. He goes, so basically you get all these groups together as one big long, vegetable soup of letters that they don't even like each other, but they're just together because they have a common cause to oppress the general population because they think they're being oppressed,
Right.
And
reverse oppression.
So now, if you say the word, if you call someone a she, they're gonna get you thrown off your TV show, and it's ridiculous. I'm glad he said that there, because a lot of these politicians are afraid. They're like, oh, we support your community, and
well, the thing is, I think personally, once you stray off of reality, you are now in a very subjective, nebulous zone that is very forgiving because it's non-distinct, it's indiscriminate. Yeah. But if you actually focus on an issue and have a stance, such as there are 2 genders in the human species, male and female, that's it. Now, in your head, you might want to be, thinking you're something else, and you want to make a label for it, and you want to do this, and you want to do that, and you want to hang from the ceiling in a diaper. Cool, do it. All for it. But don't bring it out of your closet. Don't bring it into the public consciousness and make it an issue that we have to accept, deal with, appreciate, participate with, humor you with. No, I'm not going to do that. We don't ask that of you. You don't ask that of us. And keep the 2 genders separate. I don't want any girl having to undress in front of a biological male. If you can do something with
the keyword being have to, John. Have to.
Well,
right.
Okay.
No, in other words, if you want to let, whatever, I don't have a problem with a man who thinks he's a woman and wants to be a woman, but he's not going to be able to, undress in the same locker room. They might have to make a separate little area or go into a stall out of respect for the person.
But you're assuming that he should be allowed to compete with the women.
No, I didn't say that. I'm talking about just let's say that everyone's swimming together. So the swim team is there, and he's just the swimmer, and he's swimming in the aquatic center, and he's a girl. He considers himself a woman. He goes into the locker room, and he wants to change. Now, knowing that doesn't look like all these other women, he should be, or she should be, aware enough to go into a stall and change. And what we're living in a world now where he's purposely, or she is purposely doing that because to make a point. And that's what Ramaswamy was talking about. The minority shouldn't be trying to oppress the majority because they're doing the same thing that they don't want done to them, essentially. And
you know, the solution to it is simple. Politics must remove social issues from their platforms. Period. End of story. It should be illegal. It should be absolutely illegal to mount a political platform based on social issues. It should be illegal. It has absolutely zero positive impact for the community. It has zero positive impact for the economy, and it has zero positive impact to the majority of the people who are fed up to fucking here with this bullshit. And you know,
it's not like a civil rights issue where, you know, black individuals were not allowed to use bathrooms or get jobs or get paid the same, and that's a different story. No one's oppressing these transgender or lesbian or gay people. No one's. Matter of fact, if you go to Hollywood, there's probably more gay people in Hollywood than in any other, you know, segment. So no one's oppressing them. So I don't know why they're being oppressive to everyone else. It's like, let's cancel them.
Right.
Let's cancel them.
Look, you can have an opinion as a gay person. You can say, I hate straight people. Okay. And that's perfectly fine. But if you're a straight person, you say, I hate gay people. Oh man, you are fucking doomed. That is the end of your life. If you're a politician or a public figure or an actor you're done. So, you know, it's not a two-way street. And you gotta define oppression. Most people living today have no clue what oppression is. You know, they did not live through an era in our society where,
you know what, John, here's a good analogy, and you tell me if I'm wrong. It would be like people looking at Rich Piana when he was doing all his crazy videos and saying, look at these bodybuilders, what a bunch of, you know, assuming that everyone was like him.
Right.
But that's not the case.
No.
You know, he was a minority. He had found a niche for himself, and he made some money, you know, from that niche. To assume, you know, that the majority of our population now is transgender or one of those initials, okay, because they're making a lot of noise out there, the ones that are, is ridiculous. It's like on RXMuscle, we have 5 trolls, you know, on the comment section. There's 5 of them.
Right.
the other 20,000 people who watch the show like the show, you know.
And the 5 of them, I think 2 or 3 of those are duplicates. So
yeah, to assume that the 5 are really the 20,000 is idiotic, you know.
Well, that was Bleckmanism right there. Remember?
You're right.
He would run those questionnaires in the back of the magazine, right? And one of them would say, you 5 grams of creatine gives you diarrhea, and that means I'm getting T-shirts printed. We're getting we got to write a feature. You know, let's have a meeting and strategize. And he's got one fucking email. He's got one letter that says, you know, whatever the subject du jour, you know, was.
Speaking of which, someone sent me this Jason Genova video. I got to play it for you. Hold on. I think they sent it to me because I was in it, but it's very funny. Hold on. Let me pull this thing up here. Where is the Genova video? Hold on. Here it is. Is it on the screen?
It's coming up. There it is.
Okay.
It's not moving though.
Hold on. I haven't turned it on yet.
Make sure you press the speaker. There's no sound.
Meals every 3 hours. Profit. That thing is, I'm smart. Well, I'm a very intelligent guy.
What happened to Jason? I haven't seen him in a while.
I don't know. That's your department. I don't know.
You know, he actually came by the studio. He was on our TV show once from my house.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah, he was actually he was well behaved that day. I gave him a lot of free supplements and everything like that. I haven't seen him.
You know, one of the hugest mistakes we ever made was
What?
that we never took photos at every one of those recording sessions in your guest room.
Oh, in the guest room now. But I do have. You remember I used to take Polaroids.
Yeah.
I have a lot of Polaroids from the Heavy Muscle TV show that we did.
Well, you used to do the Polaroids, but we used to cram so many people in that little room. 2 people sharing one microphone. We had porn stars in there. We had bodybuilders in. Mr. G, he was dressing up with a boa when there was no TV. You know, some of the nutty shit we did. Man.
I'm telling you, I keep having these fantasies. If I win the lottery, I have this. I've been playing the Mega Millions. I'm going to win if I win $1 billion, John, we're going to build a bodybuilding Hall of Fame.
Right.
The Hall of Fame cafe that's going to go there also it's going to serve like sushi and all kinds of bodybuilding friendly stuff. Good. The Hall of Fame gym, which will be only open to the people that I want to let in, basically.
Hall of Famers.
And but it'll be a very high end gym. It just won't be huge. And then I want to make the whole top of the building. So that would be the base floor. I'd have to build a separate building. The top floor is going to be like 10 apartments. So like Jimmy the Bull could have an apartment, Mr. G, when you come to town, and there would just be like apartments that I just let my friends stay in. If a bodybuilder came in for the whole, like if Lee came in, he can stay there for 2 weeks or whatever, And I would get I'd have to, Jimmy could, Greg, we got to get Greg Valentino down here. He could run the Hall of Fame section. We'd have different guys who have good historical knowledge of the sport would have to run that, like John Hansen and Greg and people like that. Jimmy could flip burgers and hot dogs, and stuff like that in the cafe.
But you got to have the third floor has to be a recording TV studio.
Oh yeah, we need a studio. Yeah,
studio.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we can do a podcast out of there, right? A very professional podcast.
And then, what we should do is we should come up with these crazy challenges, like the 75 hard that I'm doing, and make our own challenge and subject they all have to do it. And it's like if it's like on 75 hard, if you fuck up one little tiny thing, you got to start over. Okay, so
John, we're talking about people that are barely, functional.
No, I said we got to couch it. We got to couch it to what they could reasonably, accomplish, and just make it a little bit harder than that.
Think. All right, so let's say I build this whole thing. I get the $1 billion, whatever, which is half goes to the taxes, whatever. So I still got enough money. We build this whole thing. People come from all over to see Hall of Fame. They eat at the cafe. They work out. They get to meet Jimmy the Bull and all these people.
Right.
Flash forward now 20 years from now when these guys are in the 80s, right? You're going to have Jimmy the Bull, Greg walking around, Mr. G walking around, haunting the place, right? People will be like, who's that crazy old guy?
They'd be like the greeters at Walmart, They hand them a cart, and just come in the door. But you'd have Mr. G, Greg, and Jimmy, and they'd have the walkers, right, with the tennis balls on the back so they don't slide, and they'd just be standing there. What Jimmy would have an IV, on his, and people would come in and they would just greet him, and Mr. G would be saying, "Never give up, never give up."
Yeah. They were repeating the same stories over and over again.
And every time Greg sees somebody come in, he's a good guy. You let him in. He's a good guy.
Remember when you used to go to Gold's in Venice and you'd see Ken Kuhn at the front desk?
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking about. It would be like Greg. Greg would know everyone's name, couldn't walk in the door.
He knew everybody's number.
Oh, I know.
Membership number. He would. Everyone you come in, he would rattle it off. It was incredible.
Yeah. So,
some I'll tell you. Say what you want about our industry, but we fostered some amazing characters.
Oh, we did.
From Arnold on down.
Yeah.
Completely.
I was looking at my phone the other day, and have you ever looked at how many contacts you have in your phone?
Thousands.
Yeah. I have 4,900.
Where did they all come from?
People I have clients, people I meet,
but do you believe you inputted 4,900 numbers?
Yes. Oh, yes, that's the scary part. And I've had the same phone number, not the same phone, obviously, but I've had the same phone number since 1994.
Wow.
So what is that, 30 years?
Yeah, you must have millions. Yeah.
I never had a different phone number. My cell phone has been the same from the day I got my first cell phone to today.
And your email
Never been
address
changed.
too.
Same email address too. You're right.
Yep,
Since
same
probably
email.
also around the same time period. And it always amazes me why people get rid of their phone number or their email because you're losing. I'm always afraid I'm going to lose people who have that number. And I have friends and they're always asking me, "What's your number again?" Well, I said it's the same number. It's been for 30 years. I said 30 years. So
Charles Glass is like that. I've always had the same cell phone number with him for 35 years. Never changed.
There's no reason to change it. I don't know why. I mean, I understand. The only time I would change, I can see people changing numbers if you're being stalked or something like that, or But I don't. But a lot of people change their number all the time. Like I'm always getting guys that say, "Oh, here's my new number." I'm like, "You're 40 years old. Why are you changing your phone number now?" Like you can transfer numbers even between companies now, right?
AT&T, you can keep
Verizon.
your number. Yeah.
So
the only reason I have a different one is because when I came back from Mexico, I had no cell phone. I started over.
Right.
So,
But I'm saying for the average person who's living in the United States, who doesn't leave the United States, I don't understand why they changed their cell phone number.
I don't know either.
Can't figure it out.
There's a lot of things we can't figure out, but we do. Do you have an issue with Murphy's Law like I do?
No, I don't really believe in Murphy's Law.
Oh man, I'm telling you and my wife, it's like, to me, it's so freaking obvious that it's just glaring. Okay,
I believe if you think something bad's going to happen because everything is going good, then it happens. So I think
I mean like chance. Okay, and I use this example all the time because it was just so baffling to me. It literally happened in front of my eyes, and this is like the clearest example I can give. I'm walking down the street. It's this long road with houses on not crammed together, but like big lots, like 5-6 acre lots. There's a house and a long place and another house, and it's open, very open. All right, and I'm walking along here, and there is a telephone pole, and right in front of the telephone pole on the road is a pothole full of water. Okay, which would mean that if you were driving in that direction and there was another car coming the other way, if it passed you at that spot, you would have no choice but to either slam on your brakes or hit the pothole and splash the water out of the pothole. You follow me?
Yeah.
So this road is about a little over a mile long, and it connects 2 other roads, and I just use it as a cut across. Okay, when I'm walking. So I'm walking down the side of this road. There's no sidewalk. I'm walking on the side of the road, and there's literally no cars. I passed 0 cars in that entire little bit over a mile. Only 2 cars ever came the entire time. How long does it take to walk a little over a mile? Probably 5 minutes? Okay, a little longer maybe, right? Yeah. 6 minutes, 7 minutes. The entire time, only 2 cars came. Where did they come? Where did those 2 cars come? Right in front of the fucking pothole. And where was I? Right next to the pothole. Who got splashed? Me. So, and you're gonna try to tell me that being one of hundreds of similar examples that I can name off the top of my head, that you're gonna tell me that there's no such thing as Murphy's Law? Come on.
My other, since you had an observation, I have an observation. I am, by and far, I eat very healthy on a daily basis. I made a chicken McNugget from the kids here and there, but I don't eat desserts. I don't eat cookies. I eat, a lot of fish, chicken from the chickenpound.com. I eat eggs every morning. I'm a pretty good eater. Not like back in the day, I used to do McDonald's every day. You know that, at least, but most of my meals were good, but I would always eat McDonald's once a meal. And I'm going to tell you why. So I went to a reptile breeders expo this past weekend in Daytona. I drove up with a friend of mine. It was a 4-hour, it's like a 3.5-hour drive from my house to Daytona. A nice drive. We went to the reptile show. And, when you're on the road, I can't pack food. I'm not in that bodybuilding mentality anymore. So on the way, we stopped at McDonald's and I got 2 bacon, egg, and cheese McMuffins or whatever they're called. Lunch, we ate at the convention center there, which was fried chicken strips with greasy. This is how disgusting. When they took the French fries, I saw them out of the deep fryer. You know how they're always dripping? They're supposed to leave them and let them drain.
Drain.
They just dumped them in the thing and then scooped them into my plate. The oil that was saturated in these French fries was insane. And then on the way home, we got McDonald's. I mean, we got Wendy's, and I got like a double there, and I got chicken, whatever nuggets I got there, and French fries. So I ate French fries for like almost the whole day, and greasy, fatty protein sources. I looked when I got home. I looked like I gained 15 pounds of muscle. I was shredded, veins popping out, my delts were capped off, my pecs were all full. I'm like, what could possibly be the mechanism that my body, and I think it goes for any lean body, responds so favorably to a day of eating fast food? Whereas if the average person did that, they would probably look like a bloated sack of shit, right, from eating that food. So I have a couple theories. I wanted to hear your theory first.
My theory is that when you're in a state of deprivation and depletion, like we probably chronically are, because I'm like you, I watch my diet. I'm very strict all the time. I eat no sugar. I drink a gallon of water a day. I'm very careful with what I eat and when I eat it. And I noticed the same thing when I go out on a junk binge. It's like, holy shit, man! I look like a roadmap, and I feel full and everything. And I believe it's kind of like that overreaching philosophy where you've been depleted and deprived when you actually let loose and have this enormous amount of calories come in. Your body kind of sucks up more of them and replenishes everything that's been depleted and makes you hold water in the right spots. And if you're holding water and you're already really lean, you're going to hold it in the muscles. So I think it's kind of a version of that. I don't know, what do you think?
I'm almost on board with that, exactly the same thing. But what I think is, and I'm going to give Blackman some credibility. I remember he was talking about how Blackman ate this he was big on the anti-inflammatory diet, he called it.
Right.
Very low arachidonic acid.
Yeah.
This arachidonic acid is a precursor to inflammation in the body. So he would eat egg whites and whey protein, right? And he would, and fish. That was his diet predominantly. Right. But then on the weekends, when he would take us out to eat, he would go crazy. I gotta get some arachidonate. He would have like a steak, and he would have then he needs tryptophan. So he would have, right? So he would eat bread, and the serotonin and all that. And his theory was that because he eats so much anti-inflammation type stuff, he would get swollen ankles and he would notice side effects from being too much anti-inflammation. And then if he would then counter that with a little inflammatory foods like all the junk food, right, that it would balance you off. I think he might have something to that. I think all the arachidonic acid I probably consumed from the greasy, dripping, saturated fats that I was eating was like, it's like it balanced my body off. Like you said, it's a high, yes, there's a super compensatory reaction to your body to want to store, right? But I eat a decent amount of food throughout the day. So it's not like I'm not eating enough calories. It's not like I'm dieting, because I'm still eating carbs. I'm just eating clean stuff, and anti-inflammatory stuff. So I think you need some sort of inflammation. And I think that's why bodybuilders grow better sometimes when they eat red meat, or they'll have that McDonald's meal once a day, because they're putting inflammatory foods in there, especially while they're dieting. So you notice, you diet people, I diet people. Sometimes you have to give people a burger and fries, and their body looks better after that, because the healthy, clean food, which is the fish and egg whites and all that stuff, is very anti-inflammatory. And I think that sometimes that inflammation, which is a signal for the body to rebuild itself, actually has an anabolic effect on the body. So the answer to the question is, for me, who are old, it doesn't matter. But if you're trying to grow and put muscle on, you don't want to eat just anti-inflammatory foods. You definitely want to have some red meat. You definitely want to have some greasy stuff occasionally. That's going to help counteract all that anti-inflammation that's going on in your body.
And also, those anti-inflammatory foods are also not very calorie dense, typically, by comparison. Sure. Now, Llewellyn makes an arachidonic acid supplement and X Factor believes wholeheartedly in the anabolic.
I sell it on DavePalumbo.com, the X Factor, and you know what? If you take, and I've done bottles of it, and when you take it after you train, you get sore as shit. It's unbelievable how sore you get because it's increasing, allowing your body to express the full inflammatory response that is normally suppressed by the foods we eat and all these supplements we take. So there definitely is something to inflammation acutely in short term versus chronic. You don't want chronic inflammation in your body. That's not good for your heart or cancer and stuff like that. But acute inflammation is important. And that's why I tell people don't take like ibuprofen and non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, during the day, on a regular basis if you're trying to put muscle on, because it will actually inhibit the muscle building process.
Sure. Yeah.
Because inflammation is the signal for your body to repair itself. You don't want to reduce that signal. I think the people get confused because they see studies that come out and show that in older people, when they take anti-inflammatories, they actually recover better. And that's because in elderly people, a lot of times, especially people who don't eat right and take supplements, they have an excessive amount of inflammation all the time in their body. So by cutting back some of that, that's beneficial to them. But for people who are healthy and take supplements, you don't want chronic inflammation in your body.
No, absolutely not. And that systemically is very bad. Especially long term. So it's an interesting balance. You have to kind of notice. But somewhere in the annals of our research, we came up with, if you remember correctly, that the number one, the highest source of arachidonic acid was found in McDonald's food.
I wouldn't doubt that whatsoever.
The fact that you gained 70 pounds eating McDonald's is probably testament to that fact. But
it's interesting that because I always felt when I was eating McDonald's every day, people would say to me, "Aren't you worried about high cholesterol and clogged arteries?" I'm like, my theory was if you metabolize the food you're eating, meaning you don't store it, how can it cause any problems in your body? And we all know that, and now we know even better that saturated fat doesn't even raise cholesterol. Sugar does. But having said that, eating a ton of cholesterol, as long as it's getting burnt up and you're not just storing it because you're sitting on the couch all day, watching TV, is not bad for you. And that's how I rationalized it. You know what? Years later, when I got all my coronary arteries checked out, I had no blockages. That was proof right there that if you utilize the food you're eating for fuel and for muscle building, and you're not storing it, then you really have nothing to worry about. It's when you're 50 pounds overweight, and you have a lot of stored body fat, that's when you have to be careful. Right. So I work with bodybuilders who are huge, but they have way too much fat. And I'm like almost dieting them in the off season. And I'm giving them cardio because I know that fat is not functional in the sense it's not going to help them get more muscular. If anything, it might inhibit it because fat requires fuel, requires nutrients, and it might steal some of the nutrients from the actual muscle building process.
I battled with this same topic relentlessly for years. What I have found is that typically everybody eats too much. They eat way too much. Okay, much more than they think they need, and especially for a guy, the knee-jerk response to that statement is, well, I don't want to lose muscle. And they are under the impression that if the size of their muscle goes down, that they're losing muscle.
Right.
It's not true. If you take a piece of prime rib and slice it open and hold it up, the whole middle of that thing is one big blob of white fat, right, in the muscle. Now, if you take that, suck that fat out of there and squish the muscle back together, what happens? It's smaller. Is it weaker? No, it's the same exact amount of muscle. You just took the fat out of it. So you got to get it through the bodybuilder brain skull plate that's extra thick, that the size of your muscle is not indicative of the strength it has or your body fat level, because you have fat on top of the muscle on the outside, in the muscle on the inside your gut, hanging on your organs and a little bit in your brain and shit. And where predominantly there's no, at least I don't believe there is, you may argue, you may have a differing opinion. I don't believe there is a preferential tank that when you're losing body fat, that your body's going to take it specifically from the muscle or specifically from under the skin. I think it comes from lipolysis is lipolysis. It liberates fat, stores it from everywhere, right?
Yeah.
So
yes, I think it's equal throughout the body. Yeah.
It's equal. So as the fat in the muscle goes down, the muscle's going to get smaller. That is such a sacrilege to these guys. And what do they end up doing? All of them overeat. All of them. These big guys, big bloated bodybuilder walking around. And even the ones that are kind of lean are bloated as hell. So, they eat way too much. Yeah. And so when you have to diet, you got to diet off, 40 pounds or 50 pounds to get in the contest shape. What a stress that is on there. Your skin elasticity, your joints, your metabolism. I mean, so many things just stay within 10 pounds of your contest weight and accept the fact that intramuscular fat is going to make your muscle look bigger, but it's not real.
Ed Connors used to say that he knew all the bodybuilders that used the most toilet paper. He said they were over, which in his mind was if you used too much toilet paper, you were overeating and you were pooping out most of the food that you're eating, so you weren't even making use of the food. Now I don't know if if you could write a real journal article on that based on whether Jay Cutler used more toilet paper than Marcus Rule or whoever was staying in his house, but it is rather interesting. I think. Personally, I just think certain bodybuilders don't know how to wipe their butts because I see guys like they roll like 400 pieces out to wipe their ass one time,
and still leave a skid mark.
Yeah.
While we're on the simplicity topic, this is since we've been at this for so long. I mean, like decades between the two of us, right? Don't you find that you've come to some just like the fat in the muscle? These are just I call them uncool realities. That it's just the way it is. It's the way it is. If you're going to get that lean, you're going to lose. You're going to get smaller. Sorry, it's just the way it works.
Well, I mean, maybe measurement wise, you're not. I mean, it's the muscle. You're not really losing muscle. Like
no.
You said. You're losing, some volumization sometimes, especially also while you're dieting, you're usually pretty carb depleted. So glycogen depletion will make you look smaller too, a lot of times.
Too.
And so you have to just come to grips with that fact that that's going to happen. So look, it's a mental mind fuck, and that's why people have problems with dieting. But you know what? If you know that you're eating enough protein, you're taking the right nutritional supplements, and most people are taking gear too. They're not. No one's losing any muscle anytime soon. So,
no. But I've also come to learn that the training, you could easily separate diet and training, but I don't think you should, because training is the only impetus to muscle growth. Your biceps are going to grow for only one reason. That's because the load being imposed upon them repetitively exceeds its capacity. So as a survival mechanism, the survival mechanism is going to, the adaptive response is going to be more muscle, either hypertrophy or hyperplasia. Either way, you're going to need more muscle if you're continually subjecting your body to the load it can't accommodate. That's the only there's no other reason why your body builds muscle. None. In fact, there's a ton of reasons why it wants to get rid of it, because it's got to service it. So the fact that you're dieting for a contest and you feel like you're losing muscle, if your diet is affecting your training intensity and you can't keep that training intensity up, yes, you're going to lose muscle because you're not using it, right? So you have to, that's why this is so hard. You have to be like on death's door, feeling like total dog shit, and still go in and throw down and have a freaking intense workout. And the guys that are the best at doing that, like Dorian Yates, for example, probably one of the best ever in the world to be able to throw down the most insanely intense workouts while starving himself. So, that's the key to unlocking. That's your secret, guys. And that's why there's only this tiny little handful of, shredded giant bodybuilders in the world compared to the other 8 billion, 9 billion people, however many there are. It's fucking hard.
Yeah. I mean, when people see me train nowadays, they don't get it. But when I go to the gym, it was It was on, every single workout. There was never a bad workout, I would not allow it. And I pushed myself to the point where, I could have died. I could have hurt myself severely, never intentionally. I always did things safely, but I'm just saying I always was laying it on the line to try to move to that next level. And not a lot of people want to do that. It's not really a fun way to work out, to have to get under, oh, you know what? I'm going to get under 405 on the bench today. And I know it's going to be fucking heavy as hell. And I know that I could potentially get hurt, but I know if I do my 6 reps or 7 reps with that weight, I'm going to grow. My pecs are going to get bigger. And that was the enticement. So, that's why at some point I really think that, bodybuilding at that level with to put muscle on is really for younger guys, that 20 to 30 crowd, because once you get into your 40s, you can't lift like that anymore. You're asking for fucking major trouble.
You're going to get anyway, because you trained like that when you were 20. But there's one particular video I watch all the time, to get, if I need to get psyched up, and it's always those Dorian Yates, Leroy Davis training, blood and guts training. There's one scene, just what you said, 405. Dorian's on an incline bench. He's got 405 with the elbow wraps on, and he's just repping out, and Leroy's yelling at him like a pirate, come on, Diesel, and he's like, and it is such an intense, because you know how much that weighs. I mean, you felt it. It's that's a respectable weight to be banging out 6-8 reps with on an incline. That's fucking strong, and it hurts. And the
weird thing, John, is I never thought in a million years when I first started lifting I'd ever be able to lift 405 on an incline, and I was doing it at some. And you know what? I wasn't a strong bencher when I first started. It took me a long time to get to 225. Whereas I know a lot of guys can go into the gym and they, after 2 workouts, they're doing 225. I was not. I had a very long arm. I wasn't like a naturally strong guy. But the bigger I got, the stronger I got. And I was constantly pushing the envelope. And luckily I had a good training partners who would make me, we're going to do this. I'm like, no, I can't do that. I did 225 last week. Well, you're going to do 265 now. I'm like, what? We're going to do 315 next week. And that's what it took. You got to push yourself. I want to end the show on one final topic that I know you're pretty passionate about, even though I didn't really run it by you. But I saw Roger Clemens, Rocket Man, Roger Clemens, the pitcher, on the Patrick Bet-David show. He interviewed him. Great interview, by the way, if anyone wants to go watch it. It's really, really good. Yeah, Roger Clemens is a truly gifted individual. And at the very end, Patrick Bet-David asks him, he says, look, he played a clip actually from Shannon Sharpe. You know who Shannon Sharpe is, the wide receiver? Shannon Sharpe, got inducted into the Football Hall of Fame. And at the Hall of Fame ceremony, he said, it's ironic. He goes, I think I'm the only athlete of the 200 and so many guys in the Football Hall of Fame who was the second best football player in his family. And if any of you know the history, his brother Sterling Sharpe was in the NFL too. And I thought that was and Sterling was like almost crying when he heard that. I mean, it's a very touching thing to say my brother was actually better than me, even though he's not in the Hall of Fame. And I think you guys should really go back and look at his stats, even though he only played 7 years, how good he really was.
Only 7.
And what Patrick Bet-David said is, it's interesting. Why don't more people, baseball players who get inducted into the Hall of Fame, say, hey, you know what? Why isn't Roger Clemens in the Hall of Fame? Why isn't Barry Bonds in the Hall of Fame? Why isn't Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa in the Hall of Fame? Screw what they were accused of doing or what they might have or might not have taken. Who saved baseball? Remember when the baseball strike? And then when they
I wrote so many articles on that. Yeah, man, I remember it vividly.
They saved baseball. They made baseball billions and billions of dollars, these guys, and they just blacklisted anyone who they thought was taking steroids. I'm sure everyone was doing it.
Wait a second. It's worse than that. It's worse than that. They were told. They were told to do it. Okay, so and remember the strike was at what, 94, 95? The strike ended, okay? And baseball attendance was in the toilet. Nobody was going to the game.
No one goes. Right.
Nobody would go to the game. They needed some excitement, and the home run race was it. And the management told the players, and I heard this right from Jose Canseco's mouth, that management told them, you guys do whatever it takes. We need butts in the seats. Whatever it takes, do whatever you got to do. Everything included, do what you got to do. Okay. And the very fact that they made them do that. And then when George Bush was managing partner of the Texas Rangers. When Canseco was on the team, his nickname was the Godfather of Steroids because of the pressure they put on these guys to have a home run race where everybody was involved, and they had this, McGuire, and they had Sosa and Bonds, and the other guy, the Hispanic dude, what was his name? Sammy, right. And they had this whole thing going on, and then after all said and done, fans back in the seats, home run races booming, everybody's paying attention to baseball again. George Bush goes on TV and says, and we're going to go again, we're going to get rid of steroids, and specifically in baseball. And, it's like, you guys told them to go do it. And now you throw them under the bus. They save your ass. And now you're going and throwing them under the bus. Yeah. I think that was one of the most egregious things to happen in sports. I mean, it ranks right up there with the 91 Miss Olympia. I mean, it was that bad.
It's disgusting that these guys are not in the Hall of Fame. Just like I think it's disgusting that Pete Rose is not in the Hall of Fame. Who gives a shit if he bet on baseball? Does that take away his stats that he accumulated while he played baseball? He might just be a shitty guy, but he was a great baseball player. So I don't know what the fuck that has to do with anything.
And the other thing is it has, as far as I'm concerned, it trumpets a louder message to kids who, because the media made such a big deal out of steroids, kids believe that it's a giant part of being good, when in reality, it's a thin little tiny slice of the pie. We said it in Bigger, Stronger, Faster. I don't know if Greg said it or Rick said it or whomever said it, is you can inject an entire bottle of testosterone, put on Barry Bonds' uniform, and you're not hitting 700 home runs. Okay? That's the reality that gets lost in this, that now you have made such a big deal out of steroids and how, powerful they are and what a giant, effect they have on everyone, that you're going to keep people out of the Hall of Fame because of the unfair advantage they put on them. If you're an aspiring baseball player looking for an edge, what do you think you're going to do? The shit that got him kicked out of the Hall of Fame because it worked that good.
Well, right. And the guys who didn't get caught, okay, because they weren't as good as the top guys, we're taking them too.
Probably more.
And they got away with it just because they weren't as good.
Right.
Which is kind of pathetic, So they were made the good guys, and they vilified the heroes, and the whole thing's stupid. It's the stupidest thing of all time. I mean, guys like Alex Rodriguez, it's all bullshit. I mean, if you're one of the greatest, I don't care what you took to get there, you should be in the Hall of Fame. Yes. And it's really disgusting to be honest with me. If you want to be completely honest, I just think it's a complete mockery, like you said, because you're not holding everyone to the same accountability. You're only holding the superstars to that accountability.
It's like you enlisted a covert team of mercenaries to go in to some foreign country and rescue, a relative. And then, they rescue the relative, they extract them from the country, they deliver them to you, and then you go and tell the guys, whose country, you turn them over to the country that you illegally entered to liberate them, and they hang you for treason. That's what that is, man. I mean, to keep you are so right. That it's a travesty to keep them out of the Hall of Fame is awful.
And you know what the funny thing is? If I would have taken a group of the top baseball players and put them on a bodybuilding diet, and put them on the right nutritional supplements, and did blood work on them and see what they're deficient in, which is kind of what Victor Conte started out doing right before he started getting involved with the anabolics.
Right.
they would perform way better because most of these guys don't eat right. Most of these guys don't train right. One of these guys don't take the right supplements. They don't know anything about supplements, as a matter of fact. Nowadays, they're afraid to take anything because they think they're going to be tainted. So they take no vitamins, most of them.
Right, yeah.
It's the stupidest thing of all time.
Yeah.
And people still believe that the 400-pound linemen in football that run, faster 40-yard dashes than the guys who are track stars, they think those guys are really natural.
Yeah, right.
So stupid. So fucking stupid. Stupidest thing of all time.
Oh,
I don't even know. I don't even know how to respond to it. I feel bad for guys. I know these guys say, like Roger Clemens is like, I don't really care, at this point. The first half of my career was all about making enough money so that I can buy my mother a house and I can have some self-sufficiency. The second half of my career, or the second third of my career, was about winning the championships, which I did. And then the third half of my career was supposed to be about, legacy, but it is what it is. He said,
it's, I feel bad on that count, but I think I feel worse for women at this point in sports that they're having to deal with these gender retards and, infiltrating their sport. And it's, we started talking about it in the beginning of the show, and I forgot to add this. It was about not caring what other people do. Once they do shit like this, you kind of have to, And it would be one thing if you wanted to, dress up like a girl, go put on a girl's bathing suit, go swim in the pool, make believe you're a girl, go to a don't use any locker room, just wear your bathing suit home or whatever. I mean, there's a way to do it. There's a way to go about it.
Let me ask you a question. I don't mean to interrupt you, but Leah Thomas, the girl who was on the University of Pennsylvania swimming team, who was the one who won the NCAA women's swimming title, she was a man that was a transgender, and they were interviewing her, and she's got a girlfriend, John, which means that she's attracted to women, right?
Right.
So theoretically, I mean, I guess she'd be a lesbian, right? Because she's really a biological male who likes women. So she's heterosexual. She's just dressing as a woman, whatever. And she's not even really taking hormones. She's taking androgen blockers. And the androgen blockers they give people, for those of you who don't even know, is aldactone. Yes, aldactone, the same hormone, the same drug that they give to some bodybuilders take to dry out. It's a diuretic.
Right.
But if you take it for more than 10 days, it acts as an anti-androgen. Pretty effectively. That's why I don't know why people take aldactone. But either way, it's not like she's cut her balls off or anything like that. She hasn't. Okay? Right. She's just taking an androgen blocking agent, which is really not that much of it. It's on blood work, you'll see her levels go down, but she still has some testosterone in her blood. And she's obviously attracted to women, and she's in a women's locker room with naked women there. It would be like if you or I went into a women's locker room, we would lose our mind. We'd be like, holy crap, we got it made in here. I mean, there's a perversion aspect to this whole thing that I think the women that are in there with this individual understand exists.
Right.
And this guy is taking off this woman is taking off her clothes and letting her schlong hang out, and everyone's flopping in the wind. First of all, why wouldn't she go into a stall? It's like almost like she's doing it on purpose.
You took the words out of my mouth. That's what this is. If people would just pull back a little bit and look at it from a broader view and employ Occam's razor to the situation, this is what is so obviously evident, is that Leah Thomas, when she was whoever he was Wally Thomas, sucked at swimming. He was the bottom of the half of in the script. Nobody knew who he was. Okay, he sucked. Okay, to be the best swimmer, what did he have to do? He had to identify as a woman and beat the girls. And they proved this by that he was beaten by, kids that beat him in swimming. So it's such a gross inequity to put his body and strength up against any woman's in that field, and of course he beats all of them, but put him back where he belongs, and everybody beats him. So in other words, this is the genesis of this idea. Wait, if I want to be lauded as the best in swimming, I can go do it this way. I can beat all the girls.
Hey, John, I get a chance to check all the girls out naked in the locker room.
I get to be naked with girls. They get to see me. I get to see them. And this is a pervert's dream. And instead of recognizing him as a pervert, as somebody who's mentally ill, as someone who has an identity problem, who has delusions of grandeur or whatever else is wrong with him, he's maladjusted and he needs psychiatric help. But instead of giving him psychiatric help, you give him gender-affirming drugs. You give him a platform to be a douchebag. You give him everything that he needs to promote this stupid LGBTQ LMNOP $, smiley face emoji. And this is what we get. We get actual female athletes like Riley Gaines who have worked their entire lives to devote to their sport, to be as good at it. And in one fell swoop, all of that work goes blown right out the window. Your victory's taken away by somebody that's not a woman, and you get relegated to an also-ran because the federation at large is servicing a stupid, ridiculous social ideology that is absolutely going to destroy women's sports.
It's destroying the moral fabric also of society because of the fact that you're allowing this person in the locker room naked. I don't want him in there.
What 8-year-old?
Why couldn't he go to a separate part of the locker room where no one was in? He could have gone into a stall, changed his bottoms, put whatever he needed to put on, and then come out. And that would have shown at least respect for the women that he's on the team with, right? So that he would say, you know what? I know this is a weird situation, but I'm going to show you guys respect because I have a penis and you don't. And you know what? I'm into girls and I shouldn't be looking at you naked and you shouldn't really be looking at my schlong, but I think there's a perversion there. I definitely agree that's going on. There's no doubt in my mind. Because I think if Bruce Jenner were in there as Caitlyn, I think she would have gone into a stall and changed.
Or look, they should stop calling a men's room and women's room. They should call it schlong room and whatever the other.
No, you know how? Remember we would go to the Sound Factory, the nightclub, and there would be unisex bathrooms.
Right. Yep.
So in other words, men and women went into the same. I think is that the right unisex? Is that the correct term? Men and women use the same bathrooms. There was never any problems. There wasn't any guys walking around with their penis hanging out. There weren't girls with their tits hanging out. People went into stalls, even though they were right next to each other. There might be a girl taking a crap next to you, or whatever they were doing, snorting a lot of cocaine. But no one had any problems. There wasn't any inappropriateness there. We just shared the bathroom and thought it was cool because we were all, a little high, I guess you could say. Right? I mean, but I don't understand it. I just don't get it. I don't know.
Social media wasn't big back then. So.
I think that the government or the people who are running this whole shebang likes the whole perversion, like weird pedophilia, mixing of sexes and not really getting people confused about what they are and who they should like and not like and what their designation is in terms of gender. They like their and you know what the sad part is, we're doing this to our society and then we're going to expect our troops to go over to wherever there's a war or even in this country and defend us, and we're going to have a bunch of fucking cross-dressing freaking men who are going to be holding rifles, and their penis in the other hand because they don't know what the hell's going on.
But what's infuriating is this: if Bleckman put on Napoleon Bonaparte's uniform, okay, and stuck his hand in the butt between the buttons and went to a restaurant and demanded a private room because he's Napoleon Bonaparte and he's going to entertain another couple of generals and they're going to plot, this war exercise. And if he carried on with that enough, what would happen? They would call the men in the little white coats and they'd carry him away. Now you
not the red coats, the white coats.
White coats. The men in little white coats, and they
The
carry
British are
them away.
coming. The British are coming.
Yeah, that's what they're plotting against, the British.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
the men in the white coats would come and put you in a straitjacket, throw you in the back of the truck, and wheel you over to Bellevue.
Yeah.
Okay, so or Creedmoor or whatever. So
there's no place to wheel them anymore. They would just release them.
That's my point.
Yeah.
When Rockefeller came in and blew out all of the funding for the mental institutions, and the other states
they're
followed
wandering
suit.
around now, and they're cross-dressing now. Yeah.
So because you can, but even today, if you walked around thinking you're Napoleon, you'd probably get carted off. Okay, but if you walk around and you're a guy,
what if you walked around thinking you were a dog? You were Skippy the dog. You know, they would cart you off too.
Right, but now you can walk
You're
around.
allowed to be a dog now. Yeah, if you want.
But now you can walk around with 2 clanking sets of balls and a pair of balls and say that you're a girl, and they give you a trophy. You know, they praise you. Oh, you know, you have a vagina, you have a penis, but you want to have a vagina. Yeah. You know.
When you ever go to stores, I don't know if in South Carolina, I go to stores sometimes and I see there's the checkout person, there's the pizza place. I pick up some pizza that, you know, he's definitely, I don't know if he's a transgender, if he's just, you know, very gay or very, you know, or he's gonna switch over. I think the guy's hysterically funny. I love talking to him. I have a good time when I go in there. He's a little uptight, but I break his balls a little bit, and he loves it. I mean, we have a good, you know, good rapport. I don't have anything against anyone who wants to be different than the norm. There's nothing wrong with that. But what going back to what Vivek Ramaswamy said, this minority should now not try to oppress the majority just because they want attention. Right. And we shouldn't allow them to do that. But we are allowing them to do that. I don't know why.
Because we won't recognize mental illness. We won't do it. We will not do it. We in any other trajectory of society where you are making believe you were something else and we're dead serious about it, you would be classified as mentally ill.
Right.
But now, I mean, you brought up, I think, you know, identifying as a cat. And some idiot thinks she's a cat. And what are they? That the work, they have to give her a room with a scratch pad. They have to put a litter box in there. They have to, you know, give her a mouse. They actually have to kowtow to this degree of mental illness. And as long as we are doing that, every lunatic in the bin is going to want their 5 minutes. Yeah. You know, so we are causing the problem rather than fixing it. Right. We're perpetuating it.
I know. It starts to really make bodybuilders seem like they're much more normal. All we want to do is lift weights and take steroids. You know, that's so bad after all.
Rest of the day, exactly.
All right, we're going to wrap up today's episode of Rips and Rants. Hope you guys have a great week planned. Hopefully, you guys had a great weekend. And you know, it's funny in Florida, John. The kids have been in school for almost 2 weeks now, and I know in New York, the schools didn't even start till after Labor Day. I have no idea why they start the school so early here, but they do.
I don't. When I was in school, they started. It was in September. It was the.
That's when they always start. I know. Yeah. Not in Florida. Florida,
we Wednesday after Labor Day, right?
Yep, Florida. It starts in the middle of August. I don't know.
But they get off like in May. You know, we had to go till June.
They don't really. They go almost to June. It's not that much. It's not that short. I would think it would be much shorter. Personally, I think the kids should have the whole summer off, but you know, it is what it is. Personally, it is what it is.
They should treat them like the Chinese and make them go every fucking day.
That's right. There's some states, you know, where they go to school every day. I can't remember which state it was.
Good. But, they should. That's what you need.
Oh my God. Remember when we were in school, you would live for the holiday. It felt like the holidays would never come. Never. Like now that I'm not in school and my kids are in school, it feels like there's a holiday every week all of a sudden.
Yeah. You know,
I'm like, you're home again? I feel like my parents.
No, you remember we used to get the lunch menu, right? We used to put it on my mother used to tape it on the cabinet, and it had like the holidays when you were going to be off. And you couldn't wait till you got that December one when you saw that whole week was off, you know, between Christmas and New Year's.
Had 2.5 weeks off last year for Christmas.
We only got the week in between. That was all we got.
That's what it used to be.
Yeah.
You know, the school lunches, John, are the only thing that has not changed in schools. They're just as horrible as they were when we were kids.
Mine were
think
good.
that at this point, they can serve better food at the cafeteria.
Wow. I thought that in my school they were good. My grade school
Still doing sloppy joes and hot dogs and pizza and
grilled
junk
cheese.
food. Yeah.
Ooh, I used to love that shit.
Yeah,
But
I didn't say it didn't taste good. I said they're still serving the same crap.
Tater tots. Yeah.
Milk.
Milk.
I think I blame the school system's lunch for my acne problem that I had as a teenager. I only knew.
I blame it for my weight problem. But
there you go. You were fatso. Yeah, I forgot.
Right, I was. You know, my father was very hard on me, and not like mean, but I mean, he made me work. I mean, I had to do like a lot of physical work, and I mean, hard work, splitting wood, you know, digging holes, cutting cordwood, you know,
doing it to this day.
I'm still right. I'm still doing it. It's ingrained in me. But he used me like a piece of, you know, tractor, farm equipment. And I used to bitch and moan, had to get up early, do work before school, do work after school, the tractor, to this, fix that, to do this. And I would bitch and moan and complain. And then, you know, I got into adulthood and I realized, holy shit, I know I can work my way out of all of these situations because of what he made me do. And I ended up wishing he had been harder on me. You know,
I told my father the same thing. I said, Dad, why didn't you push me in sports harder than you did? I probably would have been a great athlete if I just practiced a little bit.
Right.
He's like, because you would have hated my guts, he said. So that's why I didn't do it. And he's probably right. So
yeah, but you wouldn't have hated it later. I mean, you would have hated it then, but not.
No, but you know how for every Venus and Serena Williams, you know, out there, or Tiger Woods, there's like 100 people who hate their parents because they made them. They were trying to make them. You ever see these like? I remember in the documentary about Serena and Venus Williams, they were showing some of these kids that they were playing in these tournaments. And their parents were screaming at them, "You missed that shot. How can you miss that shot? You let this girl beat you. She doesn't even go to this and that." And these parents were so disgusted. Like their kids just weren't that talented, but they wanted them to be that talented, you know? And those are the kids that hate their parents' guts, you know?
A quick story, and then you can shut me off.
Yeah.
Okay. I have a friend, Larry. He long time ago, we were at a party, all right? We were probably mid-20s, you know, out in California. And we were drinking and having a good time. We're outside behind somebody's house. There's a lot of people. There's probably 30, 40 people there. And somebody comes out of the house with a violin and they're fucking around with it, you know, and everybody's playing jokes with it, using it like a guitar or a ukulele or whatever. And then somehow it ends up in Larry's hands. He takes the bow, puts it up like this, and everybody thinks he's fucking around. And he starts playing. And it's like a hush falls over the whole crowd. It was like Beethoven was in the audience. Really? And he's got his eyes closed and he's like, and it's like he's playing this thing. It's like incredible, you know? Right. And people are like this. They're like, nobody can believe this. This is happening in front of them. And he finishes his song and, you know, passes it off or whatever. People start up again, you know, people clap and, you know, and everything. Yeah. And so I walk over to him and he's got tears streaming down his face. And I go, what are you taking? I mean, you know, what's with you? And he says, you know, I used to hate my parents for making me play this thing that I had, that they forced me to play it, forced me to practice every day. I had to play the violin. And he says, this is the first time that I played it because I wanted to play it. And it made other people happy. And that was like the light bulb that went off in his head, that he understood why his parents, who are now dead and gone, you know, forced him to do that. You know, that if you ever are fortunate enough to have and experience that feeling, you know, you can totally understand why force is necessary in child rearing.
You know, it's interesting that as a parent, you were a parent. Obviously, I'm a parent of young children now. It's like, at what point, you know, is pushing too much, you know, because I'm like, yeah, I know if I would love to get like one of my kids to play the piano. I think it would be a great skill to have. Right. And I'm sure, you know, it's something that they can use forever, but, you know, at what point is it abuse to make them, because you know what's going to happen. Yes, I want to take piano lessons. And then when they realize they have to practice, no one wants to practice. Who the hell wants to practice piano? Then they're not going to want to do it. Unless very rarely is there like a self-motivated person that's like Mozart waiting to happen, that's all they want to do is play the piano, Like my wife, when she was growing up, all she wanted to do was gymnastics. Like just something inside her said, this is what I want to do. I don't want to do anything else but gymnastics. So you didn't have to like twist her arm to be at gymnastics for 6 hours every day. She was willing. She would go there extra because that's how much she liked it, I wish I was like that. I mean, I got like that later in life about bodybuilding, but I'm just saying, I wish I practiced soccer as much as she practiced gymnastics or any other sport that I did. If I put that much effort into it, because who knows how good I could have been in it. And I don't think if my father would have screamed at me to practice, he's right. I probably would have said F you or hated his guts, and I wouldn't have done it anyway. So it's, I guess it's the person. You have to have the right personality of the person, like someone who's a super motivated person who almost wants their parent involved to that degree with them, that they're practicing, like the Williams sisters. They loved going to the court with their dad. That they thought the dad was abusing them. All the parents. They said, "Oh, he's a terrible. Richard is terrible. He's like he takes them there 8 hours a day, and all they do is play tennis and do." They loved it. They loved spending time with their father. They couldn't get enough of it.
Yeah, it's like Tiger Woods and his dad.
Yeah, well, I mean, it wasn't abuse. He was a pain in the ass because he wanted to control their careers,
right?
Which is, I think, where if you watch the movie, that's where the problem was. Like he wouldn't let Venus like turn pro for years. He wouldn't let her turn pro, and he wouldn't let her play any of the Junior Olympics anymore because he said that they were taking advantage of her. So she was just taking lessons, and the pros who were giving her lessons were like, Richard, we got to turn her pro. She's not ready yet. She's not ready yet. She's too young. She's too young. She's too young. She's too young. And he held her back and he held them back, both of the daughters. Then finally he agreed to do it. I mean, and they of course destroyed everyone.
They destroyed. Well, they were
once he unleashed them.
Yeah,
once he unleashed them.
The great irony that all this creates is that when you're older and wiser, you have this wisdom of choice. That you understand that if you force somebody to do something when they don't want to do it, and ultimately they do it, and they do it for long enough, they'll ultimately be grateful that you forced them to do it, right? 9 times out of 10. The problem is when you're young, you don't believe it. So this realization that we have at this point in our lives is completely lost on our children because they won't listen. Unless you force them, and then you're gonna, play that game of, they're gonna hate me, Right.
My son will say, if I say go white, he'll say black. If I say you have to do this, he'll do the opposite. So he doesn't have the right personality for that. But there are kids that are very passive, like that. Those are the kids usually that get sucked into that whole.
This is what Max told me the other day.
What?
He said he's 20. Remember, he's 23 now.
Yeah.
He said, if you had, how did he word it? He goes, if you hadn't have let me quit playing guitar, you're like really good at it right now.
Oh, guitar.
My fault. If you hadn't have let me quit.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I know Max. Max was not taking any instruction at all from you whatsoever. Right. Yeah.
Like I had any choice over whether or not he was going to quit or not. And now he's blaming me for, not letting him quit.
Well, tell him, Max, you're 24 years old. Start playing again.
He did. He started like a year ago. Yeah. And he's really good.
That's awesome. The good thing about youth is that it's never too late,
No, it's never too late. Yep.
All right, guys, that's going to take us to the end of another Rips and Rants. If you guys have ideas for topics for future shows, let us know in the comments below. And we'll be back again next week, same time.